Om na tatra su oh Adhe mandel order the tatra suryo bhati na chandata Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kratau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Nama Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the last mantra, Shruti took the prana apana to represent all Sukshma Sharira, prana apana kalapa, pranadi kalapa, and said, when Atma is there, then everything functions. This is the Anvaya. And then in this, it is the Vyatireka portion of it. In the absence of Atma, nothing in the Sharira can function. Remember, the Sthula Sharira by itself anyway cannot do anything. Sthula Sharira is any other Jadavastu in this Jagat. Sukshma Sharira also cannot do anything by itself. None of the Sukshma Sharira, if you remember, all the Pancha Pranas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas, Buddhi, Manas, Ahankara, and Chitta. Chitta here meaning memory. Nothing can function without the Atma. In the absence of Atma, this is called Vyatireka logic. Anvaya Vyatireka. Why do you need both? Now, if one argues that in the presence of Atma, the Sharira functions. This is Anvaya. But does that imply that in the presence of Atma also it is possible that the Sharira is dysfunctional, is not functional? Or the other way around? Either are there situations where the body can function even without the absence of the Atma? Even without the Atma. All of these doubts are laid to rest by the combination of the two. In the presence of the Atma, Sharira functions. Sthula Sukshma Sharira functions. In the absence of the Atma, they cannot function. Nothing can function in the absence of the Atma. This is the Anvaya Vyatireka logic, where we are trying to imply, or not even imply, establish that Atma is necessary Only in the presence of the Atma can everything function. Without the Atma being present, nothing can function. This is the combination of the logic. What happens at death? The physical body still continues and will slowly disintegrate. The Sukshma Sharira leaves the physical body. Now, this is a very interesting thought. All of those elements represented in this mantra, the previous mantra, by prana, leave the physical sharira. Now, you know that the sukshma sharira is sukshma. You cannot identify it by without that sthula sharira. So what happens to sukshma sharira? Sukshma sharira is inactive without the sthula sharira. So there are instrumentations. So sukshma sharira cannot even act. It is not even aware. Like in deep sleep. In deep sleep also what happens? The sukshma sharira goes away. The sthula sharira is unmanifest. Sukshma sharira is also not available. And the next day when one wakes up, it is like the same sukshma sharira being manifest in, is it the same body or a different body, different sthula sharira? Science establishes that this sthula sharira, the physical body, is constantly changing. Every single cell in this sthula sharira dies and a new cell is born. And there are billions of cells in the body. So in the 8 hours of sleep one gets, what happens the next day? Is it the same body? Definitely not the same body, because at least a few million cells have disappeared. And a few million new cells have come up. How can you say the same body? An interesting question to think about. This Sukshma Sharira is become unmanifest. Sthula Sharira is also unmanifest. In the process, it's also dying. Parts of it are dying. Next day, when one wakes up, we think it's the same Sharira. The Sukshma Sthula Sharira together looks like there is a same kind of individual operating. Now, what happens when physically the Sukshma Sharira leaves the Sthula Sharira and goes away? In this deep sleep also that happens, they separate. Both are unmanifest. They are not there at all. What happens on death? This Sthula Sharira deterioration is continuous. In the night, sleeping, deep sleep, I say Sthula Sharira deterioration happens. But that deterioration is not adequate for us to recognize a different Sharira next day. Because within the 8 hours, nothing much is visible. Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira both become manifest again and they are together. And everything becomes operational. In the case of death, which is more like I'm going to use the word permanent, separation of the Sthula and Sukshma Sharira, the Sthula Sharira gradually disintegrates into the Panchabhutas, dust unto dust. What happens to the Sukshma Sharira? Remember, Sukshma Sharira is akin to a surface reflecting the sun. That's a good way of looking at it. And because that light of the reflected sun is there, as long as it is there in the Sthula Sharira looks active. But when that reflected light is not available to the Sthula Sharira dies. Nothing is operational, and then gradually it completely disintegrates. Both are still available. Sukshma Sharira and that which causes the Sukshma Sharira to be what it is, Atma. And the Sukshma Sharira has to find a host, Sthula Sharira. Otherwise, it cannot manifest itself. So it looks for a host Sharira. Now, this Sharira, depending upon the karma, can be a Deva Sharira, can be a Manusya Sharira, of a variety of different types, can be Adho Sharira, animals and plants. Then what happens to Sukshma? The Sukshma Sharira that was there in the previous Sthula, because the Atma is there, and the new Sharira requires a different kind of Sukshma Sharira. And that is shown, that change that takes place is based on karma. One is karma as a karma phala in the form of, for the new Sthula Sukshma combination, creating bhoktritvam. Karma phala creates bhoktritvam. It determines whether the individual, which is a combination of Sthula and Sukshma Sharira, enjoys pleasant situations or not so nice situations. That is bhoktritvam. But there is another component of karma phala, which you can call samskara, vasanas. Swamiji doesn't really like to use the word vasana, but essentially it is also karma phala, but it then gives this combination of Sthula Sukshma Sharira a direction. A direction which is often can be seen in even small children. A 2-year-old child suddenly shows tremendous amount of skills in language or in music or in mathematics. Impossible that the child could have got this in those 2 years. Where did it come from? Those are the samskaras that come from before. What is the result of karma and therefore the karma phala in the form of these propensities? So it could be that it drives a person towards spirituality. It drives a person towards intoxication. It drives a person towards music or sports or mathematics or science or whatever. But that is also part of karma phala. So based on that, the Sharira gets this new, modified Sukshma Sharira, let us say, with certain propensities. This is what really happens in death, no? what is death? Is the separation of the Sukshma Sharira, in this case we talk about prana, is that death? In the Jagat, Deha is called a pranadhari, one who has prana. And if prana goes away, he is not even a being. Remember, the difference between Jadavastu and sentient Vastu is this. A Jadavastu reveals Atma through Satyam, Chaitanyam, not Chaitanyam, isness. A Jadavastu reveals the presence of Atma only through the isness. Remember that isness is the same as Chaitanyam also. Satyam is isness. Chaitanyam is jnanam. Both are the same, but a sthula vastu can only reveal the presence of Atma through the isness, Satyam. A sentient being reveals the presence of Atma through both isness and awareness. Different levels of awareness, but awareness all the same. So this argument that is shown here as Anvaya is buttressed by the Vyatireka, saying, in the absence of the Atma, nothing can function. So we continue with the same kind of thought process here. Kincha
Kincha.
Kincha is, moreover, continuing. Earlier we said that in the presence of Atma, prana operates, and that Atma is in the form of the Vamana. He is saying, continuing that, he says, Asya
Asya
Vistramsamanasya
Vishram Samanasya
Sarirasthasya
Sharirasthasya
Dehinaha
Dehinaha
Dehat Vimuchyamanasya
Dehat Vimuchyamanasya
Kimatra Parishishyate
Kimatra Parishishyate
Etad Vaitat.
Etad Vaitat.
So you combine the two, there is the fact that everything operates in the presence of the Atma. And here, nothing can operate without the Atma. So it very beautifully, this thing, it's all Shashti. Asya, Vistram Samanasya, Sharirastasya, Dehinaha, Dehat Vimuchyamanasya. Other than all of these, if these leave, Vistram Samanasya, that one which leaves the Sharira, the one that gets detached, that which is already in the Sharira, Sharirastasya, that which is in the Sharira, resides in the Sharira, that is called the Dehi, Dehin, Kshetrajnaha, Dehinaha, which is in some form a manifestation of Chaitanyam, consciousness, in the Sharira as it is Chit, awareness. Dehat, when from the Deha, Vimuchyamanasya, when it is separated from, freed from, when the body is freed from this, what happens? Kimatra parishishyate. What is left? That which is gone is what we are looking for. What is that is gone? Nothing is gone. Remember, the body does not function anymore because the presence of even the so-called reflected Atma are not available. Physical body does not function anymore. Kimatra parishishyate. Nothing is left behind. Atma is there, but Atma's Chaitanyam is not there. Only Satyam is there. That which you are looking for, etad vaitat, if you separate like this mentally, you will recognize the presence of Atma. This is our Yamadharmaraja's expanding on the idea of Atma. If you sort of add the words to make it readable, it will become what? Sharirastasya, asya sharirastasya, what was said earlier, purvoktasya, dehinaha, vistramsamanasya, dehat vimuchyamanasya sati, atra, means dehe, kim parishishyate, na kinchit. Dehat nirgate atmani, dehasya kashtavat, kashta is wood. The daha yogyatva darshanat. It is ready for dahanam. So it's called deha. Dahana yogyam, called deha. Anyaha, other than this, dahastiti hetuhu. What is the hetu for all this? Atma. Iti siddhaha, and this Atma is anyaha. This Atma is what you're looking for. Etad vaitat. This Atma is what you want to know about. This Atma, in your answer to your first question, there is no doubt, no vichikitsa. There is something that survives the physical body. Every religion tells you there is something that survives the physical body. Every religion. In Advaita thinking also, something survives the physical body, the Atma. Physical body, these words are very important. When you say something survives the physical body, something survives the assemblage of the physical body. Because even when the physical body disintegrates with the pancha prana, pancha bhutas, Atma is still there. Atma is not gone anywhere. But that it is vyatiriktaha, it is different from the Atma, is what we have to understand. Atma is not the Deha, but the Deha and all its components and all what it disintegrates into is Atma only. Dehat Anya. Atma can't go anywhere. Sarvam Vidam Tatam is Atma. How can it go anywhere? There's nothing, where will it go? Space is not something separate from Atma. So one uses these words, one has to understand the words also carefully. So when you say there is separation from the Sharira, Vistramsamanasya, of the Dehin from the Deha, it only means that the visible part of the conglomerate of Deha, this particular structure of Deha. Because Atma continues. Atma cannot not continue. Atma is, period. So this Sharirastha, Dehinaha, the one which is indweller in the Sharira, never leaves, but looks like it is not available. Because there is Sharira. Sharira itself will disintegrate. In time, it will disintegrate. Everything will disintegrate in time. What leaves the Sthula Sharira? Certainly the Sukma Sharira. And Sukma Sharira and the reflected Atma, equivalent of the reflected sun, you cannot separate. How can you separate the mirror image from the mirror? You cannot separate that. They are together. Only Manasikama, you have to see, okay, the mirror is separate, the image is separate, it's different. But it goes with the mirror. And it takes a lot of the characteristics of the mirror. Whatever the mirror is, the reflecting surface is, the reflected image takes that characteristic. There was somebody who was trying to experiment, some book I read a long time ago, to find out the weight of the Sukshma Sharira. In fact, he wanted to find out the weight of Atma. Not even Atma, he wanted to find out the weight of the soul. So with increasing technological advances, they were able to measure very, very, very small weights also. Already our labs measure extremely small weights and small time frames, atomic clocks and things like that. So what he was trying to do, some absurd calculation, that you put a living body, which is in the point of dying, on such a scale. And the moment the body loses its consciousness, it is not alive anymore, it's dead. See if there's a difference in the weight. It's an absurd thing. You can't do these things. Neither Sukshma Sharira nor Atma has any weight. Anoraniyam Mahato Mahiyam. How can you ask for a weight? Weight implies a material. That means an object. Atma cannot be an object. So that is a very absurd kind of attempt somebody is. No, you're not even, I think it's probably an imagination. That tadatmyam is between Atma is sarvagya, akhanda. What we are seeing in a Chaitanya Sharira is only the equivalent of a reflected light source. That reflected light source also is a light source, which is why we are able to see sentiency. It enlightens, it enlivens whatever it is in. So the Dehin makes every part of the Deha functional. Chakshasya Chakshuhu, Mano Manaha. Everything is only Karana. They are not the Atma. They cannot function. They are also Jada. Only because of this presence of Atma is there everywhere. But because of the presence of the equivalent of a reflected light source in the Deha, we call that Deha sentient Deha. No more than that. The sharirastha, that which is sharire tishtati, in the individual sharira. Therefore, it looks like an individual atma. It is not. There cannot be an individual atma. Dehe asti iti dehin. Atma never leaves. It cannot leave. It is akhanda. There are no separate small pieces of Atma. Therefore, any argument saying that I am like a amsha of Atma and I rejoin the Atma is also not valid. The only way it will make any logical sense is to understand that there is only one akhanda Atma. All that we see in so many different living beings is only because of the upadhi. And we know enough of this, we've studied enough of this to say this. This whole section, if you remember, started with equating this Sharira to a Pura, which is an assemblage. The Deha is also an assemblage. In that assemblage is a Swami, for whom every member of the assembly works, for whose benefit every member works. No member works for either himself or itself better or any other member. They all work for that only one Swami, like the king in the Pura. Bhashyakara expands on this concept in his Bashyam. Let's read the Bashyam. Asya
अस्य
sharirasthasya.
शरीरस्थस्य
These are words taken from the Moolam. He explains. Atmanaha
आत्मनः
Vistramsamanasya
विश्रंसमानस्य
Avastramsamanasya
अवस्त्रसमानस्य
Ramshamanasya
भ्रंशमानस्य
Dehinaha
देहिनः
Dehavatāha.
देहवतः
Although I'll break it here. Asya sharirasthasya. Of this one who is the indweller of the Sharira, who resides in the Sharira. What resides in the Sharira? Atma. Of that Atma, Atmanaha. Again and again we have to remind ourselves. Atma, although it is shown as Angushtamatra Hridaye Tishtati, it is only to try and understand how the Deha operates. Deha will be like any other Jadavastu, but for this concept of Angushtamatra Purusha in each Sharira, which is not to mean that there are many Atmas, which is only to indicate that there is an equivalent of a reflected Atma because there is a reflected medium available. And therefore, why Hridaya is used also to indicate Buddhi, Buddhau, because it is Upalabdhasthanam. That is where we can understand this idea of Atma. Therefore, when that Atmanaha Vistramsamanasya, that which, when it leaves the Sharira, Vistramsamanasya, I don't know, sometimes Bhashyakara uses another word which is as difficult as the first one. Vistramsamanasya, he says, Avastramsamanasya. Unless you know the dhatu and you're able to look up the various prefixes to the dhatu, they mean the same thing. But I suppose it is required for people who want to understand in depth. Vistramsamanasya, avastramsamanasya. And he explains it further. Bhramshamanasya. Now he's going to a different dhatu. Bhramsh dhatu. To crumble, to fall. Here it means to separate. Of what? Dehinaha. Again, that he explains it. Dehavataha. The one who has the deha. Dehavan. Adhanura Shashti. Dehavataha. Asya sharirastasya atmanaha vistramsamanasya avastramsamanasya bhramshamanasya dehinaha dehavataha. He explains again the vistramsana. He has used so many words for that, no? But he still explains. Vistramsana shabdhartamaha.
विश्रंसन
शब्दार्थमाह
Dehad vimuchyamanasya iti.
देहाद्विमुच्यमानस्य इति
The meaning, shabdhartha, of when you say Vistramsamana, Vistramsamanasya, again Shashti, Shabdhartham. What is the Shabdhartham? What does it mean? All those words mean the same thing. What? Dehat vimuchyamanasya. That which is freed from the Deha, which is separated from the Deha. So, Vistramsa Shabdharthamaha Dehat vimuchyamanasya. Dehat is Panchami, because you're talking about separation. Iti. Once that happens, when that Atma, who is the indweller of the Sharira, is not available to the Sharira anymore, why is it not available? Because the reflecting medium, as though reflecting medium, the Upadhi, which is the Sukshma Sharira, separates from the Sthula Sharira, and the Sukshma Sharira is the only one which can show you the presence of the Atma in terms of it, Chit, Chaitanyam. So that is not there. Then what happens? Kimatra parishishyate. What is left behind? Kimatra parishishyate.
किमत् परिशिष्यते
Pranadikalape.
प्राणादिकलापे
Na kinchana parishishyate.
न किंचन
किञ्चन
परिशिष्यते
परिशिष्यते.
Connect to the previous mantra. Once that Atma is, or even the reflected Atma is not available, the Sharira has no active part left. It's only the combination of Atma, Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira that can show you activity. Atma and Sukshma Sharira cannot show you activity. Atma has no way of revealing itself in this Sthula Sharira except as easiness. You understand this. And Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira without the Atma are both Jada anyway. non-available. So, kimatra parishishyate? What can be there? Nothing. Where? Pranadi kalape. Kalapa is a collection. Prana adi kalape. In this previous mantra and here also, prana refers to, in the previous mantra, it's a pranam urdham unnayati, apanam pratyak asyati. Praggamana vayu prana. Adogamana vayu apana. This prana apana is used here in the sense of exhalation and inhalation. But if you remember your Tattvabodha, that's not the way prana is defined. Many places you will find prana defined. All 5 functions, prana, apana, udana, samana, all 5. Prana, apana,
Vyana.
dhyana, upana, samana, all 5, inhalation, excretion, circulation, digestion, everything is referred to as prana only. But here prana means exhalation and apana means inhalation. That pranadi kalapa, the whole conglomeration of all of them, or na kinchana parishishyate, nothing is available. Nothing is left behind. Nothing remains operational. A number of different things are assembled. That assemblage cannot do anything without the presence of the Atma. This business of the Swami of an assemblage, we can see also in everything. A car is an assemblage, intelligently put together. But for whose benefit is the car? The tire is not for the benefit of the brake. Brake is not for the benefit of the seats. For whose benefit is that? There has to be an owner. A Chaitanya being for whose benefit all this is being done. A house is like that. It's not the assemblage. A lot of things are there. All of them inert. Everything in the car is inert. A robot is an assemblage. Robot is not built for robot's sake. For the person who it is going to serve. Not a very good example because it's not inside. Our assumption is that of the Deha and Deha Swami. So earlier we saw Ratha Swami also. Same kind of thing, image. All components are jada, inert. Every single component. But they all function, they all do their job exactly as they should do in cooperation with each other. They don't clash with each other for the benefit of the Swami. And if the Swami himself is not there, Atma is not there, none of them can operate. Na kinchana parishishyate. Atra dehe
अत्र देहे
vidravane iva
पुरस्वामी विद्रवण इव
puravasinam
पुरवासिनां
yasya atmanah apagame
यस्य आत्मनः अपगमे
kshanamatra
क्षणमात्रात्
karya karana kalapa rupam
कार्यकरण कलापरूपम
सर्वमिदं
सर्वमिदं
हतबलं
हतबलं
विध्वस्तं भवति
विध्वस्तं
Hmm.
भवति
विनष्टं भवति
विनष्टं भवति
तो अन्यः सिद्ध आत्मा
तो अन्य
Hmm.
सिद्ध आत्मा
आत्मा
everywhere. Normally, when the king, the Puraswami in a Pura, leaves the Pura, he doesn't walk out alone. A big retinue goes with him. Why Swami? Why a Raja? If Mathadipati goes also, same thing happens. He doesn't go alone. A whole lot of people from the Matha go with him. When Rama went to the forest, also the whole city went with him. He had to Jabardasti tell them, please go back, don't come with me. So whenever the Swami leaves, Kamita, whenever the Swami leaves, a whole retinue leaves with the Swami. So he says, Atra Dehe. Atra means Dehe. Atra comes from Kim Atra. Kim Atra Parishishyate is there in the Moolam. Atra Dehe Puraswaminaha Vidravane Iva. Vidravane is, it moves away. When he moves away, Puravasinam yasya atmanaha apagame. The same way, Puravasinam, they also go with him when the Raja goes. In the Pura, when the Puraswami goes, the Puravasana also, Vasinaha also go. Similarly, yasya atmanaha apagame. When the Atma leaves the Sharira, Ksanamatrat, at the same instant, at the same time, without any space, Karya Karana Kalaparupam Sarvam. Everything leaves the Sharira. All Karanas become non-functional. The Karya, which is the Deha, become non-functional. So as though they also leave. The whole Kalapa Rupam Sarvam Idam Hatabalam. They go back to being inert. They don't have anymore the support of the Atma. So even that which looked like when somebody died, we say he's dead. What happened? That support of the Atma to make it have Chaitanya Rupam. What we are visible after that of the Atma is only in terms of Satya Rupam, easiness. Body is still, and then body disintegrates. Body is not. Even that is also Atma. Body becomes Panchabhuta, that is also Atma. But what is not there is Chaitanya Rupam. They all become Achetana, they lose power. Atabalam. Vidhvastam bhavati. They are finished, they're destroyed. Because once that is not there, there's nothing else for them. They just disintegrate. Vidvastam bhavati, it explains as vinashtam bhavati. They get destroyed. They are disintegrate into elements. Therefore, this whole thing proves, if we understand this, That Atma, Anyaha Siddha. Saha Anyaha, Saha Atma Anyaha. It is different from the Stula Sukshma Deha. It is different from all the components of the Stula Sharira. It is different from all the components of the Sukshma Sharira, because they are all components of one integrated assemblage, all of which work for the benefit of the Swami. Without the Swami, they are all jada. And they will disintegrate into the natural elements. Nothing can be functional. Therefore, Atma is separate from all of them. That is the proof. QED, Atma is Anyaha. Now, the answer to Nachiketa's question is very clear. When the body dies, there is no Vichikitsa after this. There is an Atma which is separate from the Deha, which continues. Continues was always there. Everywhere, because there is no time-space at all. Atma is, period. So he says that is shown to be correct. Dehena leaves, everything becomes non-functional. Because what makes the Atma, what makes the body-mind sense complex sentient? What makes it alive? It's only the Atma. But a question can arise that in this Jagat, how do you test when somebody is dead? How does the doctor certify dead on arrival? Comes in an ambulance, lands in the hospital, straight away taken to emergency. How does the doctor verify is they alive or not? He only puts his finger here. Is there any breath? That's how we test it. If there is no breath, no prana, no incoming prana, no outgoing prana, that is called death. Death. That is how we know death in the Jagat. So one doubt can arise. Earlier you showed us that prana, apana, they all are there in the Sharira, and that's why there is this, they work for the Vamana. All of these senses, Vishve Devaha Upasate, it is because of prana. Prana leaves, body is dead. So why do you say that there is something else called Atma which is to leave? I am saying prana leaves, it is gone. Prana stops functioning, it is gone. Can be an argument. Somebody can come up with this kind of a thought that what enlivens the body is prana. In fact, like I said, a being is called a pranadhari, one who has prana. Even by definition, it is one who has prana. Then why can't you say that prana is the only thing? There is no separate Atma. How can you deny that? One can get a doubt like that. The doubt is what? Bhashyakara raises the doubt before the next mantra. And the mantra itself clarifies this. See, our source of knowledge is the pramana. And that is the Shastra. This is part of that. So the Shastra has to explain this. Acharya doesn't have to explain it. You and I don't have to explain it. The Guru doesn't have to explain it. It's there in Shastra. And that's the pramana. But Bhashyakara himself raises the doubt. Swan matam
स्यान्मतं
प्राणापानादि
प्राणापानादि
प्राणापानात् प्राणापानात्
प्राणापानात्
अपगमात्
अपगमात्
एव इदं विध्वंसं भवति
एव इदं
भवति
विध्वस्तं भवति
न तु तद् व्यतिरिक्त आत्मा
न
न
तु
तु
तद्व्यतिरिक्त
तद्व्यतिरिक्त
आत्मा
आत्मा
अपगमात्
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 प्राणादिभिः एव हि मर्त्यो जीवति इति
प्राणादिभिः
एव
एव हि
हि
मर्त्यो
मर्त्यो
जीवति इति
जीवति इति.
We will look at this doubt little more in detail before we go to looking at the answer given by Shruti in the words of Yamadharmaraja as the Guru. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat
पूर्णात्
Purnamudachyate
पूर्णमुदच्यते
Purnasya
पूर्णस्य
Purnamadaya
पूर्णमादाय
Purnameva Vashishyate
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
Om
ॐ
Shanti
शान्ति
Shanti
शान्ति शान्तिः
Shanti Harihi Om
हरिः ओम्
Gurubhyo Namaha
श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः
Harihi
हरिः
Om.
ओम्
नमस्ते स्वामी जी.
नमस्कारं धन्यवादः स्वामी